The little boy was stabbed 20 times. His lung had collapsed. Nearly a third of his body was burned, but somehow he survived. And when detectives finally asked him what happened inside that house that night, he said something that would stay with them forever. "My dad killed my mom." Then he told them his father tried to kill him too. Let me tell you something. When a child says something like that, everybody in the room gets quiet. Because whatever happened inside that house, it was about to become one of the most disturbing family murder cases Florida had ever seen. Moving on. Just before midnight on March 18th, 2018, a 911 dispatcher in Hillsborough County picked up a call from a woman who sounded absolutely terrified.
What's the address of your
I'm shot. Help me, please.
What's your address?
Help me, please. He shot me.
Where?
The dispatcher tried to calm her down and get the address, but the woman could barely speak through the panic. Then another voice came through the phone. A man.
Hello, Alexa! I'm so sorry.
Ma'am, hello. Ma'am.
Right now, come out here and help me kill it. Yeah!
Deputies were already on their way to the location the dispatcher had managed to piece together. 13,248 Pike Lake Drive in Riverview, Florida. But while they were driving there, more calls started coming in from neighbors. One neighbor reported hearing screaming next door. Another said a woman had just run out of the house begging for help. By the time deputies got close to the street, the situation outside the home had already turned violent. The woman who made that 911 call had run to a neighbor's door and started banging on it. But the man from the house followed her outside, and he wasn't empty-handed. He was holding a shotgun. Neighbors began stepping outside to see what was going on. One man watched the entire thing unfold from just a few feet away. He later told investigators the man grabbed the woman and started beating her with the gun, over and over again. James Gray lived just across the way. He woke up to the same screams echoing through the neighborhood. When he looked, through his door peephole, he saw the woman lying face down outside. The man was standing over her. James told his fiancée to call 911 immediately. She looked through the window and recognized the man. It was Ronnie O'Neal. James stepped outside, trying to figure out what was happening. But before he could even say anything, Ronnie O'Neal started yelling at him. "She killed me! She killed me!" He kept repeating it. Then, suddenly, he dropped the woman's arm and walked back inside the house. When deputies finally arrived at 11:49 p.m., the woman was still lying in the yard. She wasn't moving. Paramedics tried to help her, but it was already too late. She was pronounced dead right there on the scene. Her name was Kenyatta Barron. She was 33 years old. But the nightmare that night wasn't finished, because as deputies turned toward the house, they noticed something else. Smoke. The house was on fire. Flames were starting to spread inside. Deputies rushed toward the front of the home. That's when the garage door suddenly began opening, and Ronnie O'Neal walked out, just calmly walking toward them. Officers immediately shouted for him to stop and get on the ground, but he ignored every single command. They had no choice but to deploy a taser and force him into custody. Even after being placed in the patrol car, he kept shouting. He was ranting about demons, about Kenyatta being the devil. At one point, he yelled that the children were the devil's kids. Meanwhile, firefighters and deputies were trying to get inside the burning house. What they found next would haunt everyone involved. Because suddenly, a small figure stumbled out of the smoke, a young boy, barely standing, covered in blood, stab wounds across his body, smoke rising from his clothes. He collapsed just a few steps outside the door. One detective later said the injuries were so severe they initially thought the boy had been disemboweled, but the child was still conscious. And the words he managed to say were simple. "My dad killed my mom." Then he collapsed. That boy was 7-year-old Ronnie O'Neal Jr. And inside that burning house, Someone else was still there. As firefighters pushed deeper into the house, the smoke inside was so thick they could barely see their own hands. Every step felt uncertain. Then suddenly he slipped. The floor was soaked, not with water, with blood. Knives were scattered across the ground, and as he tried to steady himself, he reached out and felt something. It was a little girl. Her body was badly burned. She was bleeding heavily. The firefighter lifted her and rushed outside as fast as he could. Another firefighter met him in the driveway and immediately began trying to help. But the injuries were devastating. The little girl had been attacked so brutally that even experienced responders struggled to process what they were seeing. One firefighter later said he simply broke down in tears. That child was 9-year-old Ron'Niveya. She was Kenyatta Barron's daughter and Ronnie O'Neal's daughter too. Inside the house, investigators would later piece together what had happened. Kenyatta Barron had been stabbed. She had been shot with a shotgun, and she had been beaten with that same weapon. The medical examiner ruled her cause of death as blunt force trauma. Ron'Niveya's injuries were even more disturbing. She had been attacked with a hatchet. She had been shot in the neck. And then the house had been set on fire. Meanwhile, Ronnie Jr. had been stabbed again and again before gasoline was poured throughout the house. Detective Mike Blair had worked countless cases during his career, but when he arrived at Pike Lake Drive that night, he immediately sensed this one was different. He had 5 children of his own, so seeing a 7-year-old boy being airlifted to the hospital hit him hard. Doctors weren't even sure Ronnie Jr. would survive. He had been stabbed 20 times. His lung had collapsed. Burns covered large areas of his body. But against all odds, he held on. While doctors fought to save the boy, detectives started looking into the family. Kenyatta Barron had recently returned to school and was attending Hillsborough Community College. Friends described her as a devoted mother. Her son would later say she loved playing football with them in the yard. Her mother, Carrie, said Kenyatta was her children's biggest supporter. Photos of Ronnie Jr. and Ron'Niveya covered nearly every wall inside the home. But Kenyatta's relationship with Ronnie O'Neal had been complicated for years. The two had an on and off relationship that often turned volatile. Police had been called to the house multiple times. In one incident, Ronnie O'Neal damaged Kenyatta's car during an argument. He took the car jack and smashed the windshield, then reportedly said if he couldn't drive the car, nobody would. But despite those conflicts, Kenyatta allowed him to return to the house several times, even after they separated. Most recently, he had come back asking for a place to stay. He claimed he just needed time to get back on his feet. Kenyatta agreed, against her family's advice. That decision would eventually place Ronnie O'Neal back inside the home where the violence unfolded. Ron'Niveya, the couple's daughter, required constant care. She had been born prematurely and lived with autism and cerebral palsy. She communicated through small signs and gestures she had learned. Her brother, Ronnie Jr., even learned some of those signs himself so he could talk with her. She loved colorful clothes, she loved earrings, and she absolutely loved Oreos. Small things that made her smile, things that made what happened inside that house even harder to accept. Meanwhile, Ronnie Jr. remained in the hospital fighting for his life. Doctors placed him on a ventilator. Skin grafts covered over 30% of his body. But slowly, incredibly, he began to recover. And once he was strong enough to talk, detectives asked him to explain what he remembered.
Basically, I was sitting in my room and I saw my mom and my dad arguing in their room. I just saw my dad holding a shotgun. My mom ran into my sister's room into the closet.
And when your mother ran into your sister's room, what did your father do? Did he go after her?
Yes. My sister was sitting on the bed, and then my dad told me to walk around and say like some words. Allah Akbar.
Was there a time when your mother was able to get out of the closet?
I just saw her like, she was like stumbling outside, and then I just saw my dad chase her.
Did he do something to your sister?
He dragged her, dragged her into my parents' room. He hit her with an axe in the head, and then in the back, and the back, and then the head. And then I saw her eyes roll, and then there was blood everywhere. He lighted something with a tissue and a match.
Do you remember your father ever having a can of gasoline?
Yes, he spread it everywhere, and then he got the match and then he dropped it on the ground, and then put all the fire up here. He put me on the ground, and then he had his foot on top. I was laying on my stomach. He had his foot on top of me, and he was holding me down, and he was lighting a match. He was lighting a match with the tissue. No, but I remember actually before that, he called someone, I don't know who, and he said, "I just killed someone. I just killed this beat."
The next memory Ronnie Jr. had was waking up in the hospital. When detectives compared his story with the physical evidence inside the home, the details matched. Everywhere investigators looked, they found signs of the violence he described. Meanwhile, Ronnie O'Neal sat in jail awaiting charges. Police noted that during early interviews he seemed disoriented. He struggled to answer simple questions. At times he seemed confused about the date or even basic information about himself. He was eventually charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, attempted murder, arson, and aggravated child abuse. But the emotional aftermath of the case didn't stop with the investigation. Detective Mike Blair kept thinking about Ronnie Jr. in the hospital. He began visiting him during recovery. The visit lifted his spirits in a way doctors hadn't seen before. Eventually, Ronnie Jr. was released from the hospital and placed into foster care, but adjusting to a new life proved incredibly difficult. He had lost his mother, his sister, his home. Everything familiar was gone. One day, the boy's guardian called Detective Blair and explained that Ronnie Jr. was struggling badly with the placement. Blair thought about it for a moment. Then he said, "Bring him to me." And just like that, the 7-year-old arrived at the Blair household with little more than the clothes he was wearing. At first, the plan was temporary, just until a long-term placement could be arranged. But the more time Ronnie Jr. spent with the family, the more it became clear that something deeper was forming. And eventually, Mike and Danielle Blair made a life-changing decision. Ronnie Jr. wasn't going anywhere. He was staying. But while Ronnie Jr. slowly rebuilt his life, the man accused of destroying it was preparing for a trial that would shock the entire country. By the time the investigation was complete, prosecutors believed the evidence against Ronnie O'Neal was overwhelming. The surviving child. The crime scene, the 911 recording, the neighbors who witnessed the attack, and the injuries on Ronnie Jr.'s body. All of it told the same story. Ronnie O'Neal was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, aggravated child abuse, arson, and resisting law enforcement. Prosecutors also announced they would pursue the death penalty. But before the case could even reach trial, another issue came up: Ronnie O'Neal's mental state. Doctors and specialists evaluated him for months. In October of 2018, a judge ruled that he was not competent to stand trial. For Kenyatta Barron's family, that decision was painful. It meant more waiting. Meanwhile, Ronnie Jr. was trying to rebuild his life. Detective Mike Blair and his wife Danielle had taken him into their home, originally as a temporary arrangement. But the longer he stayed, the more it became clear he belonged there. He asked them the same question over and over again. Was he going to have to move again? How Long could he stay? Eventually, Mike and Danielle made the decision official. They would adopt him. The boy who had survived the attack would now have a permanent home. While Ronnie Jr. adjusted to life with the Blair family, Ronnie O'Neal's legal situation slowly moved forward. After further evaluation, doctors eventually declared him competent to stand trial. The trial began in June of 2021, and almost immediately it took a strange turn. Ronnie O'Neal decided he wanted to represent himself. The judge warned him repeatedly that this was a terrible idea. She explained that representing yourself in a murder trial carries serious risks. But Ronnie O'Neal insisted. He claimed his defense attorneys refused to use a stand your ground argument. So he dismissed them and chose to act as his own attorney. That decision shocked nearly everyone involved in the case, because it meant the man accused of killing Kenyatta Barron and Ron'Niveya would personally question witnesses in court, including his own son.
We are under some of the most vicious, iron, fabricating, fictitious government you ever seen. By the time it's all said and done, you will see who is the mass murderers. In Tampa Bay, the state of Florida. You will know why what occurred on March 18, 2018 occurred. And the evidence is going to show that law enforcement tampered with evidence to meet their such high burden of proof. Because originally, it wasn't enough. So we had to tamper with evidence. Since it was such evident already, but we still had to tamper with evidence. The evidence is going to show my son did not see me murder his mom. The evidence is going to show he did not see me shoot his mom. The evidence is going to show my son said many things that are not true.
During opening statements, prosecutors played the 911 call Kenyatta Barron made during the attack. Jurors heard her screaming for help. They heard the chaos in the background, and they heard the moment when her voice disappeared. Prosecutors argued that Ronnie O'Neal hunted her down as she tried to escape and beat her to death with the shotgun. They also described the attack on Ron'Niveya, a 9-year-old girl who could not speak, a child who could not run away, a child who could not beg for her life. Ronnie O'Neal responded by accusing police of fabricating the entire case.
He showed you a fraudulent recording where they allege that I beat Kenyatta Barron to death. He talked about Mr. Khalil Brown my neighbor who stayed across the street. But if Mr. Khalil Brown was a help to them proving me guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, they would have called Mr. Khalil Brown. But I called Mr. Khalil Brown to be a witness for me. And I didn't ask him to lie about one thing that he saw that night. I asked him to tell the jury exactly what he saw that night. And you have to ask yourself why that is. Because he's playing a fraudulent damn recording of me beating Kenyatta Barron 15 damn times when that did not happen. And like I told you earlier, you will know the truth, whether in this trial or the next one. Better believe it. And if you think I'm here to play around with y'all, God damn it, I'm not.
All right, Mr. O'Neal, please stop using swearing language. It's not appropriate in a closing argument.
Now, he played a recording that was sped up. Why didn't you play the regular recording that people can understand what the call was saying?
Objection to the defendant asking me questions, Your Honor.
I'm going to sustain
I'm talking to
okay.
people.
Mr. O'Neal, listen, please just keep in mind this is not personal towards the prosecutors. Please keep your comments directed towards the evidence and the law. Thank you.
I know for a fact Kenyatta Barron's recording from her phone did not record calls sped up like that.
I'm going to object now. He's talking about facts, not in evidence of what he knows.
Again, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as you were instructed, the closing arguments are just that. They're not the evidence or the instruction on the law. It's just what the parties believe the evidence shows or does not show. All right? Thank you.
You heard Mr. Khalil Brown. You've been hearing me for 2 weeks now, telling you that they committed criminal acts against me with the 911 calls and that fraudulent video that they just showed y'all. Now, I'm going to prove it to you. You heard Khalil Brown. He said that he was actually sure that I only hit Kenyatta Barron 3 times. You heard. I called him to tell you that. I ain't running from nothing. They didn't call Khalil Brown to tell you that. I did. And you have to ask yourself why that is. Because I want you to know the actual facts. I did kill Kenyatta Barron. But I want you to tell it like it is if you're going to tell it.
But the most shocking moment of the entire trial came when Ronnie Jr. took the witness stand. By that point, he was 11 years old. The boy who had survived the attack now had to testify in the same room as the man accused of trying to kill him. And because Ronnie O'Neal was representing himself, he was the one who had to cross-examine his own child.
We're starting first here at 6 with this boy's act of bravery after surviving the unthinkable.
I just saw my dad holding a shotgun and my mom, and mom screaming at him.
That little boy testifying at his father's murder trial. He's the son of Ronnie O'Neal, his father on trial for the murder of the boy's mother and sister, and also for trying to kill Ronnie, allegedly. Now, because he's representing himself, this creates the unusual scenario of the father cross-examining, questioning his own son. The man is accused of trying to kill him, and now he is basically questioning his son's testimony. Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer is live at the courthouse in Hillsborough County. Aaron, even separated by video screen because the boy is in a remote location, this had to take incredible courage by this now 11-year-old boy.
Yeah, Chris, he was incredibly brave. He showed unbelievable composure in that remote location as he gave his testimony this morning, followed and had to describe all of these horrific events that occurred that evening. What you were about to hear is part of little Ronnie's testimony. He's 11 years old now, followed by some of the cross-examination that he experienced with his father, who, as you said, is representing himself. This was the first time that they have seen each other and spoken to each other since that the attack on March 2018.
State, you ready to proceed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I just saw my dad holding a shotgun and my mom screaming at him.
And your father had a shotgun. What happened next? What did he do?
My mom ran in my sister's room. My mom ran in my sister's room and terrified into the closet. And then my dad said, "Come in here and come kill the B-word."
Did you hear any shots from the shotgun before that?
Yes.
How many times?
One.
Was there a time when your mother was able to get out of the closet?
She was like stumbling outside, and then I just saw my dad chase her.
What do you remember happening next?
My dad told me to walk around and say like some words.
And do you remember what words your father told you to say?
Allah Akbar.
Allahu Akbar?
Yes.
Did he do something to your sister?
Yes, he hit her with an axe. And then he went in the garage, I followed him. He put me on the ground, and then he had his foot on top. I was laying in my stomach, he had his foot on top of me, and he was holding me down. And he was lighting a match.
Mr. O'Neal, any questions?
How you doing, Ronnie?
Good.
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
Did you see me shoot your mom?
No.
Did I hurt you that night of this incident?
Yes.
I did. And how did I hurt you?
You stabbed me.
And investigators have said that Ronnie O'Neal tried to set his son and their house on fire before this night of violence ended, according to investigators. Again, that was the first time that father and son have seen each other since that violent night back in March 2018. The boy's father, what you kind of heard there was him trying to call into question his son's recollection of the events of that night, and he says that there's some kind of inconsistencies in between what the boy says now and what he had said to detectives and attorneys in the years that followed that night. But there's one thing, though, that the prosecutors have really tried to hammer home here. What they tried to make sure the jury understood is that, in their opinion, there's only one person who could have carried out the crimes that were committed that night, and that person is the defendant, Ronnie O'Neal III. Live in Tampa, Aaron Mesmer, Fox 13 News.
When it came time for Ronnie O'Neal to question him, the courtroom went silent. Instead of arguing or accusing him, O'Neal paused and simply thanked him for caring for his son. Then he said he had no further questions. But outside of moments like that, Ronnie O'Neal's behavior in court remained erratic. He frequently shouted at prosecutors, he paced around the courtroom, and at times he appeared angry with the jury itself. Legal analysts later said his behavior may have hurt his case more than anything else. After 2 weeks of testimony, the trial reached its final stage. Closing arguments were presented. Then the jury was sent to deliberate. They only needed a few hours to reach a decision. The verdict was guilty on every count. Ronnie O'Neal was convicted of murdering Kenyatta Barron, murdering Ron'Niveya, and attempting to murder his son, Ronnie Jr. Because prosecutors had sought the death penalty, the case moved into a penalty phase. Jurors now had to decide whether Ronnie O'Neal should be executed or spend the rest of his life in prison. His defense team argued that he suffered from severe mental illness. They presented testimony suggesting he experienced hallucinations and paranoid delusions. They also referenced past trauma in his life and claimed he had been under extreme emotional disturbance during the murders. But Florida law requires a unanimous jury decision for the death penalty. And in this case, the jury did not reach that unanimous decision. Instead, the judge sentenced Ronnie O'Neal to life in prison without the possibility of parole, along with additional decades for the other charges. During the sentencing hearing, Kenyatta Barron's family spoke directly to him. Her mother described the pain of losing both her daughter and granddaughter in such a brutal way. Her sister said the violence inflicted on Ron'Niveya was beyond comprehension. Many of them believed the crimes deserved the death penalty. The judge herself struggled to describe the horror of the case.
This is your justice.
Even as Ronnie O'Neal faces the final judgment for murdering his ex-girlfriend and daughter, crimes that captivated people across the country, he offered up no sorrow.
I am not sorry for something I didn't do, and I am not sorry for the things I did do.
His words coming as no surprise to the family of Kenyatta Barron.
It's the same reactions he's always had in life. It's the same reaction that caused him to commit these murders. You guys just got to see it for yourself.
Kenyatta's family took the stand, able to speak from their hearts and tell O'Neal what they've waited 3 years to tell him.
So when you sit in that cell for the rest of your life, remember, you don't leave out until you're in a box. So when you sit in that cell every day, 24 hours a day, that scream, I want you to hear it. When she comes to you in your dreams, I want you to receive it. You know why? Because that was a child of God.
19 years I've been at this job. I've seen human beings killed at the hands of others in every way imaginable. You name it, I've seen it. Shootings, stabbings, drownings, suffocatings, blown apart by cars in DUI manslaughter cases, horrible things. This is the worst case I have ever seen as far as the facts go. When the person from fire department, when he testified, and when he said that he retrieved the body of Ron'Niveya O'Neal from the home, and all he could do was sob. It took every ounce I had not to start sobbing too. Because there is no way any person with any feeling could have witnessed or seen the photos of what occurred that night and not be haunted for the rest of your life. I know I will be. For the rest of my life, I'll be haunted by what I saw as far as the evidence and just the abject cruelty of it all. The abject cruelty. And I was aware, because I reviewed a lot of the discovery ahead of time, as you well know, did a lot of in-camera inspection of a lot of documents. And I was aware there was some evidence, at least, that when you needed to recover from your gunshot wound, that neither your parents nor your Aisha, Ms. Robinson, would let you come recover at their home. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not going to get into a dispute. I'm just mentioning there was some evidence referencing that in the records. And all I could think about, because I knew that Ms. Barron was not with you romantically at the time. And I knew that she just out of the goodness of her heart let you come stay with her. And it is beyond tragic that critical decision ended in so much horror for her and for her children. It is unspeakably cruel.
For the judge, it was one of the most disturbing cases she had ever seen. Ronnie O'Neal later attempted to appeal his conviction, but the appeal was denied. The verdict remained in place. For Ronnie Jr., The path forward was long and difficult. Recovering physically was only the beginning. Healing emotionally would take much longer. But through it all, the Blair family stayed by his side. Eventually, they officially adopted him. Ronnie Jr. became Ronnie Blair. Today, he continues therapy and focuses on rebuilding his life. He enjoys acting, spending time with his family, traveling, and doing normal things most children take for granted. Detective Mike Blair once said that nothing could ever replace what Ronnie lost. But the goal now is simple: to give him a life filled with stability, safety, and love. And every night before bed, they remind him of something important: that he is safe, that he is loved, and that he is part of a family again. Thanks for watching Crime in Cold Light, and I'll see you in the next one.